Welcome to Sabine Studios. Follow me. We'll take a look around. This is the foyer. And beginning artworks. This one was done in 2021. I like working this size. This one is house paint on canvas. This one over here is more recently done, like last week, and this one is also house paint on canvas. But why don't we move to the gallery, which is right this way. And what you're seeing is part of the living part of the studio. I have art all the way through the house, but the gallery is primarily this room here. And this is one of the earliest paintings in the house. Not the earliest, but was done one summer while I was living with my parents and going to college. And many people find this their favorite. More recently, 2021, that was done as a lark, but turned out nicely. So I decided to hang it, name it, and keep it. And then, if you follow me this direction, these are more recent works. All of these works you're seeing now, with any exceptions that I point out to you, have been done since 2021, at which time I began painting in earnest. And large scale is how I prefer to work. The second painting was actually featured on the cover of Redwood Art Group's lookbook, which was circulated to over 200,000 galleries, collectors, and interested people. The third one was done probably a month ago. The two smaller ones have been done early in 2022. So I was working small scale for spaces that required small scale. But the larger format is where I'm more comfortable, and I have recently gone from strictly black on white, to adding color. And I like it better, and I think the art lovers prefer color in the painting. So you will see more and more color. There are many paintings throughout the studio home gallery that are strictly black on white. I'm still comfortable with that and frequently do that. I have one in this gallery, which is also my studio, where I do my paintings. This one is called Red Line, for an obvious reason, and was done for an automobile enthusiast. So the red line has more than one meaning for that gentleman. The next three paintings are a series called The Three Graces, and they will be shipping to Santa Fe, Art Santa Fe, in July, and I will have a booth there with 8 paintings, and these will be the featured paintings in that exhibit. And they are named The Three Graces: Thalia, which were Greek goddesses, actually living individuals, and Aglia, and I'm sorry, you will have to pronounce the third one. You may know her from Greek history. As you can see, I'm doing more color in these paintings. I start with the black in many cases, and then add the color and maybe working the black into the color so that they are married, joined, united, and all contribute to the effect that you are expected to see. And I say expected to see because every painting appears different to every person who views it. Everyone finds their own interpretation. Some people walk right on past, some people stop and cannot proceed without viewing in more detail. So this same series, using the burnt orange or orange and red and with the black background, appears in this one, which is named Noble Stance. And I do not typically do abstract impressionistic. I do abstract expressionistic. Impressionistic is where you actually are doing an abstract version of a real object. And to some, this looks like a horse nobly standing, and that is where the name came from. So, again, this one I refer to as rapture, and you will have to assign your own understanding to that or your own interpretation of that. But most of my paintings are developed by releasing energy. I throw strokes on the canvas that release energy, and that is much of where my enjoyment of art and the process to produce it derives from. And then I have a triptych here, Overture in Red, which just hung for 3 months in Chelsea, New York City, in the Amsterdam Whitney Gallery, and was seen by many people, and it's still one of my favorite paintings, and also one of my more recent paintings. But the multiple canvas is a convenient way of shipping, of fitting smaller spaces, and in many cases, each one of these could sell independently, but I would not sell this one that way. This is a rendering done by a friend, a fellow of mine, of a home that I did in St. Louis County about 15 years ago. It's near South Point, the lowest point of travel of the Missouri River before it reaches the Mississippi. And then a painting that I have in progress, and this is not only my gallery but also my studio. I do not know yet what direction this will go. I do not know until I greet the canvas what my next step is going to be. There's a communion that occurs between me and the canvas, and I have to decide whether I want to use a paintbrush or a palette knife or a squeegee or just the wooden sticks that you stir a can of paint with to apply the paint to the canvas. I have to decide what colors, what technique, how the paint flows, and it's relative to what implement I'm using. It's relative to the temperature of the paint. It's relative to the closeness to the canvas that the tool I'm using is held, and the speed with which I apply the paint. So there are multiple techniques involved that determine whether or not I like the painting. In some cases, I'll paint over it and start again. And what happens is that gives me a texture that builds interest within the painting, and I feel makes them far more desirable to own and hang in your own home or office or private space. And I found a source that will put my artwork on clothing. This painting is hanging in another room. We will see it, but essentially they are using my artwork for these garments. And I have just begun marketing them, and I'm putting together a series of paintings that will be easy to buy online. And I will also work through boutiques, offering them collections. And one of the first, this was a painting that I titled The Crow's Eye, and you may see why I named it that. Now I would like to take you less formal part of the gallery, which is also where I live. And this is a recent triptych soliloquy. It's house paint on canvas, and as you can see, it's got an underpainting that is the same color as the canvas, but adds an interest and texture that is subdued on purpose. I picked a flat paint for the flatness of the sizing on the canvas, so that it sort of dances in the background and floats under the lines of color and the lines of black to add motion and activity to the colorful portion of the painting. This one is entitled K2. I choose, when I start to paint, I have to decide whether I want something bold and commanding, or whether I want something light and airy. And this is not light and airy. This is intended to demand your attention, to demand to be seen and inspected and enjoyed. And it's a strong painting, so it takes a great space for it to be displayed in, or it can overpower the space. I have other paintings that have that same nature. So this one I did for Art New York, Art Expo New York, and I named it George Washington Bridge because the gallery that it was showing in, the art fair that it was showing in, was not far from the George Washington Bridge. And actually, in high school, I played trombone, and one of the major pieces that our band director selected was called George Washington Bridge. And you could literally hear instruments being interpreted as automobile horns because the bridge was always so busy, and with people honking at each other and taxis and whatever. This painting, I don't think I've even named yet, it's so new, but it, as you can tell, it's full of energy and activity, and many of my paintings are. This one was done in 2015, as was the one hiding behind the palm. And there again, it's just letting myself go and letting the lines, the form, the color unfold as it goes, yet knowing that it has to create a pattern that draws one in, that leads you to a spot that you find attractive, and then you look for the next spot, and your eye follows a series of revolutions through a good painting until you have seen most of it. And yet, if you come back a week later, you will see things that you didn't see the first time. So, if we may move into the next room, if you'll join me. This painting is actually the first oil painting that I ever did. And I did this 2 weeks before I entered college to become an art student. And one might ask, do I plan these paintings out? Well, 99% of the paintings I do are just totally ad lib. This one, I was with my parents, living with my parents, and one night we all went to bed, and I could not go to sleep, and I kept seeing this image in my mind, and it would not let me go to sleep. It would not go away. It would not change to another thought. And I had a canvas, this canvas, in the room. I had paint in the room, and I got up as quietly as I could so as not to wake my parents, and put this painting on this canvas, turned out the lights, went to bed, and fell instantly asleep. So this is still one of my favorite paintings. And there are a number of interpretations. Everyone sees something different in it. I see a reference to a play called The Fantastics, in which one of the memorable lines was, "Remember, you must always leave the wall." So over here, I have a painting that I did probably 25 years ago. I'm sorry it's not appropriately lit, but this is one of the paintings where I have literally covered every inch of canvas with paint. And I no longer feel the need to do that, although it does produce a very interesting effect. This one is acrylic on watercolor paper, and was done as sort of an exercise. It was done on my living room, on my kitchen table, and using lots of color and just a strong gesture of movement and motion to produce something that many people find exciting because of the mix of colors and the activity that is occurring in the painting. And then I have a series. This one is called Dancing Spirit, and is again house paint on watercolor paper. It may be a bit difficult to see through glass, but there's a lightness to it that it's almost like a dancing spirit that one might see in Ireland on summer's eve. And its companion piece here was done at the same time, done together, and generally one of them has a more masculine appearance and one of them generally has a more feminine appearance if they are compared. So these were done in 2021, and so these are of my more recent works, and they are not the demanding, powerful, these are more feminine, more relaxed, easier to look at, and easier to work with in most residential applications. Unlike Ka-ching, this Alec dip, which is 4 canvases combined to create one canvas that is 16 feet long. This is one of my more recent paintings and one of my favorite paintings. And I like, one of the things I like about it, again, you can see the sizing on the canvas, the flat white paint, and the gloss or semi-gloss white paint. I've got flat black, I've got gloss black, I've got a burgundy color, and then that even shows through as you walk past the painting. Depending on the lighting, you will see what has been overpainted, and that still becomes part of the painting and a texture. So there is so much happening in this painting, yet I wanted something more emphatic, and that's why I went with the dark, with the black heavy strokes at the top of the canvas as a counterbalance to all this flight of activity that covers the balance of the canvas. So when viewed from